This video is all about creating columns on your Dataverse tables. I'm going to take you through every single data type that you can create. Yes, every single one of them. I'm going to show you what the experience is of creating them, and also at the same time, we're going to look at how that ends up in the user interface in your model-driven app. If we haven't met before, my name's Lisa Crosbie. My channel is full of tutorials that help you learn and get started with Power Platform and Dynamics 365 and stay up to date with the latest features. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you get value out of this tutorial. And this is all about what happens when we press this button here, Add Column. I'm in my Power Apps Studio. I'm making a model-driven app. Check out my tutorial on that if that's new for you. I've created a table and now I need to create the columns that are on that table. And there are lots of options and things to know here. So what I'm going to do is take you through all of these things when we click Add Column. What we need to do, first thing we need to do is give it a name. I'm just going to pop something in here so that it doesn't bother me with an error message every single time, but I'm actually going to just kind of stick with having that on the screen and not change the name each time. So the data type here, it's really worth understanding what these data types are because you've got all of these options, and once you have saved that column, there's no going back. You are locked in. So if you decide and you've got the wrong data type and you need to change it, you're going to have to delete that column and create another one, which in the moment, not so bad. If you've built a whole solution and dependencies around it, can be messy to unpick, so well worth understanding that. And what I'm going to do is, as we look through each of these to make it a little bit more interesting and useful, I have got a table pre-created here, which has all of these things in it. Now, this is not normally what you would do. I've actually named all of these things the name of the data type. You would normally give them sensible names in context, but for illustrative purposes, I really want you to understand what they're doing on the user interface in the end, because it helps you make the right decisions. So let's work through them one by one. So the first one we've got here is a text type. That's the most basic thing. I'm going to go in here, and the name is usually a text, so we can call this one, I'm just going to call this one Demo 3, and the text column here, I can put in a string of text. I'm working just for fun here with something called Cupcake Ipsum. If you like that, I'll pop a link in the comments here. It's a bit more interesting than the standard Latin text that usually gets used for these things. The text column can have up to 4,000 characters in length. Now, one of the things I'll encourage you to look at as you create your columns, scroll down, go into advanced options, and see here we've got the maximum length. The default is 1,000. Now, if you can't remember what the maximum is, just go ahead and put in a ridiculously huge number and click away, and you'll get the message there. This must be between 1 and 4,000, and then you're good to go. All right, that's a text column. The next one I'm going to talk about here is a text area column. This one allows you to have a paragraph of text, so you can have multi-line text. This one also has a maximum length of 4,000 characters. And let me grab some more of this delicious Cupcake Ipsum and pop that in here. Now, with a text area, you can have things like paragraph breaks in here. I can actually also apply formatting, so I could go in here and use the rich text editor. That's a control that you can add when you set up your form. Cover that in another tutorial. I could also go ahead here and highlight things. So we've got like a highlighter in here as well, and so on. So rich text editor format. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to save this and watch what happens to this one here, this auto number. So if I go across here and choose a data type of auto number, this allows you, and you can actually use this for the name of your record as well. So you've got an option with to have an auto number in there or text. This allows you to have different types of auto numbers. So we've got a string prefix number, a date prefix number, or custom. The standard one, which is what I'm going to show you, is just 4 digits. Seed value is 1,000, and it will basically just auto number the records in turn like this. But I could put a preview in front of it if I wanted to, and you'll see, sorry, a prefix in front of it, and you'll see the preview there, ORD 1001. I could start from a different seed value if I had a reason to do that. I could make it more digits if I want to. I can also, instead of having a string like text at the front, prefix with a date. So this idea of putting something in with a date when it was created. So lots of different options in there. I've just gone with the standard one here. And the thing with an auto number is it will happen when you save the record. So let's do that. And there we go. I've created a couple of records before. It's giving me that auto number 1002. All right. Back to the text, we've actually got text, text area, and multi-line text in here. So if I come back here and choose multi-line text, I'm working through these ones in this text section at the top here, but there are some lesser known ones at the bottom. So multi-line text, we can do that. Now, this one, you can go far with this. Let's put in an absolutely ridiculous number here to test the maximum length. There we go. 1,048,576 to be precise. Essentially, you can get away with a million characters in here. So let's grab even more of this delicious cupcake ipsum in here, and I will paste it in here. And you can see this is allowing you to do, quite lengthy blocks of text. Otherwise, there's not really any difference. You can still have all of the functions of editing and so on. I've just formatted it on the user interface to take up the full width of the screen there. So that's a place where you can put lots of text. All right, let's round out and have a look at these other text columns that have some special properties associated with them. So all of these allow you to put in something that's a special sort of type of text. So it might just look like text, but it's going to behave in a way that links up to something. So this allows us to work with email addresses, which will allow you to click and send an email. Let's have a look at that one. So I can go back into here and we can put in hello@demo.com. It's not validating whether it's a real email address, but it knows it's an email format. If I tried to put in something here that wasn't an email format, it understands that that's not valid. So it is doing at least a validity test on that. And you'll see the email icon there, which I can click and send an email directly to that email address. We also have URL, which allows you to put in a website address. And again, I could click and go directly to that. So let's put in, this is my blog site. We get the little web icon there, click that, and that will navigate to that website. Next thing we can do is put in a ticker symbol. So this is if you're into watching the stock market and so on. This is that 3-letter code. So we can go in here, I'll just put in BHP, click on that, and that will take me out to the MSN Money site and give me the current situation that's going on there. And finally, we have phone in here, which allows you to put in a phone number and make a phone call. So I can put something in here that's, perhaps a made up phone number, something like that. And again, this allows you to make that phone call. So if you've got the soft dialer built in calling, then you can work with that directly from that app. All right, now let's move on to the number, date, and time options. So I've just put that in a new tab to make it a little bit cleaner here. And let's go back here. So this section, we've looked at all of the text ones. Now let's have a look at the numbers. So we've got whole number, duration, time zone, and language. Whole number is a number, right? So this is something that we can use. And again, we scroll down into this advanced options and you'll see by default, we've got maximum range here of the minimum and maximum value. That's fine. If you wanted to have something where you don't want people to enter negative numbers, you can actually set that minimum value. If you have a reason to set the maximum value, then you can do that as well. And a whole number is basically just a whole number that has no decimals associated with it. So there we go, 25. Now the next two here, decimal number and floating point number, are used for very similar things. Essentially the recommendation here is the decimal is the go-to. I'll shortcut it for you. Both of them allow you to store numbers that have decimal places. Floating point is something that stores it as an approximate value. Essentially it just takes up a little bit less space and therefore is more performant. But as I said, generally speaking, recommendation tends to be to land on using decimal. So we can use a decimal number here. Again, we've got the idea of a minimum and maximum value, and you can set the number of decimal places in there. Similarly, we could do the same thing with a floating point number, and we can set the number of decimal places there, the maximum there being 5. So if I go across into here, we'll see the experience of the decimal number. So we could go here and go to 1.25, and same with the floating number. It will look pretty much the same in the user interface. All right, duration. Duration allows you to use a preset list of things that are sort of measured in time, basically. So if we go into duration here, no advanced options are available there to speak of, and this just basically puts this particular set here, 1 minute, 15 minutes, 2 hours, and so on. This is quite useful if you're doing things where you're logging timesheets and so on. So we can say, you know, I spent an hour on something there. Time zone, similar concept, another column that you can add that has all of the options already worked out for you. So we can go in here and choose time zone, and that will give you the standard list of time zone options that you would see every time you look at a list of time zones, so you can indicate that in there. And then we also have language. Now this is a list of the languages that have been enabled in your environment here. I've actually only got English in here, but if you've got multiple languages enabled, then you'll be able to see that. So we can choose that one, and you'll see what that does, which in this case is just a single option. All right, let's have a look at the date and time and date only column options. So what we've got here is two things that are essentially the same, but do you want to work with only dates or do you want to work with dates and times? And that's going to be obvious depending on what you want to do. So we can choose date and time. Date and time allows you to put in, as the name suggests, a date and a time. So we get that sort of 8 a.m., you know, so on. We can put those things in there. Whereas the date only column, if I choose that, so we go date only, we have, guess what? A date only. All right. Now we have a whole section here on currency, and currency I've separated out for a reason. Do use the currency field rather than decimal if you are recording currencies. Currencies in Dataverse actually have some really special and sophisticated properties here. So if I go in and choose currency, then what happens is it actually creates some other things in the background. Don't freak out when you create a currency field. It actually creates something else. You get currency and then another thing called currency base and bits and pieces in here. So I've surfaced all that up into the app so that you can see it. Currency is basically something that is going to, you put it in and it's going to display as currency. I've got a default currency set in my system. I'm in Australia, I'm working with Australian dollars. But the other thing that goes on behind the scenes here is capability for you to work with currency conversion and multiple currencies. So just know that that capability is there, and it's good to use that currency field for something that is genuinely money because there's more things going on with it. Plus it displays with the appropriate currency symbol depending on your currency rather than using decimal numbers for that particular functionality. All right, so we've looked at text, we've looked at whole numbers, dates and times. Now we're into the sort of other category of things. And the choice and choices is actually one of the most commonly used things. A choice allows you to have a drop-down menu, let me show it to you here, which allows you to choose just one thing, gold, silver or bronze. I have to select one of these things. So when we build a choice column, there's actually two parts to this. The first one is to choose the data type as choice, and then we go in here and choose which set of choices do we want to work with, and you can actually say I want to create a new one here, and this is where we can put in that, you know, gold, silver, bronze and so on in there to create those options. You can reuse those choices over and over again. So the other thing we can do here is to say, actually, I want one called choices. So these look very similar in the menu, but a choice column, single pick list drop down. Choices means you can choose more than one, but I can choose the same option in there, so I can have the same list of things in there. So what this ends up looking like is we've got a single choice or multiple choices. So I've got the same gold, silver, bronze, but in this case, I can actually choose more than one of those. Just be careful with how you use these things. The multiple choice one, the choices one, can't be used in as many ways if you're starting to get into some of the business logic behind the scenes. But if you're just looking for something on the user interface where you want them to be able to choose more than one, it's a really good thing to be able to work with. All right, let's have a look now. We've gone choice and choices. We've already done currency. Next up, I've got customer and similarly lookup. So customer is out of the box something that allows you to connect to or look up to both accounts and contacts, either accounts or contacts. This is my favorite bit of terminology in the whole platform. This is called a polymorphic lookup field. What this does with customer is the concept of a lookup is that we are looking up a value in a related table. So I can use this little search icon, but the customer one has special properties. You'll see here I've got both accounts and contacts. So I can go in here and choose AdventureWorks, which is an account, or I can click on this and switch across to contacts and actually choose a person. So this is really useful. We see this in sort of customer service scenarios where your customer might be an organization or a person, anywhere where you need to use something that looks up to a customer, and the customer could be either an organization or a person, will do that for you. So that's the customer column. The lookup column is actually a lookup to a specific single table. So we've got in here that we can look up to a related table. So I can go in and say, I want to look up to the account, for instance. And the lookup column actually at the same time creates a relationship, a one-to-many relationship between these two tables, so that you've got that already established. So it's actually a nice shortcut if you want to create that relationship rather than having to go in and create it separately. So this is what it looks like here. We've got a lookup. I can look up here the account, so we can put in AdventureWorks. And so then we also have one more here, which is the yes, no column. This is basically a yes, no, true, false. This one is binary. It's like you can think of this as a toggle switch, and you can actually display it in the user interface as a toggle switch. It has to be one or the other. So you'll see here by default, we've got yes or no, and you can choose what the default is. So the default is no, but I could switch the default to yes. You can also change the values here. So if you wanted this to be true, false, you can actually change that. But just remember, it has to be one or the other. So if we look at this here, you'll see here's my yes, no, and it's no, or I can change it to yes. As I said, I can display that with a toggle switch if I prefer. If you want something which is nothing, yes or no, like you want that null option, you need to use a choice, because a choice can be nothing, but a yes, no has to be either yes or no. So the last one I want to show you here is the image column. So if we go here and choose an image, the first time you create an image on your table, it's going to be the primary image. Even if you don't tick that box, it'll do that the first time round. The primary image is what happens here. This is like a little icon that I can work with, and that allows me to upload an image that is something like you might use this for the icon or the logo of an organization. So I'll just grab something there to show you a nice generic little icon so we can put that there. If you create another image though that's not the primary image, then you can have something that hits here that allows you to actually have a picture of some kind. So I'm going to choose a file from my desktop there, and that can upload it in. So I've got a picture of a chair if this is something to do with that, and that allows me to work with that. I've forgotten to show you one here as well. Choose file. One more thing, the file type. So if we go in here and have a look at this one, file type. So if I go back in here and I can choose a file from my desktop, and that will pop it in there. This is actually essentially uploading the file and storing it there. This is not recommended for large file types. You're going to use up your data storage pretty quickly. If you do that, you're better off to use SharePoint integration. But if you want to do that, that is something that you can certainly do. If I click on that, basically it triggers a download, and I can open that one from my downloads folder. And so the other thing that you also get with your table when you create it, you don't actually do this part, but here they are. We have got a whole bunch of administrative things. So when you first create your table, these are the columns that pop up. You've got that created on, created by, modified on, modified by, the owner and the status reason, and so on. You can choose to surface those. They're mostly used for things like auditing and security around your application, but all of that capability is there as well, and you can show that and use that in your app if you would like to. So there you have it. That's all of the different data types that you can create in Dataverse, including some of those advanced options, everything from text, numbers, dates, times, a little bit of cupcake ipsum thrown in there for you as well. Thanks for watching. I hope that's been helpful.